Hello friends, come to know about the secret part. It is duration of moves. All market movements obey the law of 12 and its multiple. So it's talk about all markets and they follow the law of 12, which is again important. See permanent master 12 chart. So when you go on that chart, probably we'll able to know about that. Major changes occur in the 11th to 12th, then 18th, then 22nd to 24th. Now again 11 to 12, this comes to 12. 12.5 is 18. 12 into 2 is 24. So that's why 22nd to 24th. Now see, this is again a range, not an exact point, because this is during this time frame that you will be finding those changes happening. Changes doesn't happen over a day. In a day, you'll be able to find the high, but during that tenure, the changes do happen. 34th to 36th. Now again, 36 is the multiple of 12. 42, 42 is 36 plus 6. 48 is 12 into 4. So 48, 49. That's why this 48 to 49 years is again important. 50 or maybe 50 is again half of 100. 54th. So we have 48 plus 6, which comes to 54. And then we have 12 into 5, that is 60, plus 6 gives us 66. And again, there is one more important cycle, which is 72. Maybe we'll talk about that separately. So 60 plus 12 gives us 72. 72 plus 12 gives us 84. And 72 plus 6 gives us 78. So 72-year cycle is important. 84 years is again important. 84 years, so again, WD Gann especially talked about that. Again, adding 6 to that, we get 90. We have 96, which is again important. 96 to 102, which is nearer to the 100 years cycle. Then after 96 comes 108, so which is again a multiple. Adding 6, we get 114, and 12 into 10 is 120. So adding 6, we get 126. 120 plus 12 gives us 132. And then after that, we have 12 into 12 is 144. We'll again talk about the 360-degree or maybe the permanent master 12 chart, 144 months chart, because these are all very critical and important for us. Hello friends, in this video we are basically going to talk about the great time cycles, which are going to be 90 years, 84 years, 60 years, 49 years, 45 years, 30 years, 20 years. And we are also going to see the logic. What is the logic, or is there anything common between all these cycles? Is there a basic multiplying factor which is to be used so that we know that, okay, this all falls together into the pieces of all these cycles falls together? Are we able to know that? So we are going to specifically see in this video and try to know, just if we look at that multiplying factor, things should be much more easier for us. So let's look at these cycles. First of all, I'll just read this all together. It says 90-year cycles. When we start from sunrise or in horizon and measure to noon, we get an arc of 90 degrees, which is straight up and down starting from the bottom. 90 months or 90 years is a very important time period. We are talking about not only months, years, we are also talking about the degrees. So degrees, months, years, they are going to be all measured in the same way. So degrees is nothing but the angles which are there. So angles, years are going to be almost same. We can always interchange them. The 90 years time cycle is one of the very important ones because it is 2 times 45. Now 45 is something very important. That's why it's talking about 90 years to be 2 times of 45. This 45 period must also be watched at the end of long time periods. For example, 1932 was 90 years from 1842. And we all know what happened in 1932 because there was a huge crash from 1929 onwards till 1932. Study the wheat prices around this time. 1850 and 1851, add 90 years and we get 1940, 1941. So now there are two different cycles which have been working, which is 1842 onwards till 1932. And there is another cycle which started at a period of somewhere around 8 years, or you can say 9 years, that is 1850. And from 1850 onwards, we go up to 1940, 1941. Note low prices of wheat around that period. Again, we have 1855 June. High for wheat was 140. 90 years from this time period gives 1945. So 1855 onwards till 1945, we have another cycle which has been coming. So now see, there is a difference. 1940 and 1945. There is a huge difference of somewhere around 5 years. Wheat reached high in June, selling at 140. Some options at 168, 169. Now, we have already seen about this part, why there was a specific high during that time period. 1850, 1851, extreme lows for wheat. Add 45 years and we get 1895, where extreme low was reached. From 1895, we again add 45 years and we get 1940. So if we have, let's say for example, here also it was 1850. So 1850, we directly add 90 years, but if we add 45 years also, we get an intermediate date, which is 1895. And from 1895, we again get a date, which is 1940, which is the 90-year cycle. So 90-year cycle is important because this is 2 times 45. That is again important. So this is talking about the 90-year cycle. Next, we have the 84-year cycle. This repeated 84 years from 1845 to 1852. Now, see, look at this cycle, which is ending at 1852. 1852 and 1850, 1851. These cycles almost do converge together at this point. And from here, this point, which is 1850, 1851 or 1852, yes, these cycles do get aligned at this point. So that's why this period of 1850, 1851, 1852 is important, because two cycles of 90 years, 84 years do merge at that point. And from there, we get another cycle. So from 1845, 1852, it bought a low in 1929 to 1933. So this is an era which has been considered from 1845 to 1852, almost 7 years. Same way, 1929 to 1933, almost a period of 4 to 5 years. So this bought a low during this part. Of course, we'll consider this maybe later on, why this low has been coming to this specific time period and not at the end or maybe at a high or something like that in 1852. So we had this first part of 90 years. We have the second part of 84 years, because after 90, 84 is a critical part. Again, if we try to see, maybe this is a multiple of something, which is important. Then we have 60-year cycle. Compare 60 years from major tops and major bottoms and see how these cycles work. Now, this has just been given in a simple language. We already seen this previously, how this 60-year cycle also been formed. After 60 comes 49. Now, 49 is, first of all, nearer to 50. That is the first part. 49 is 7 into 7. The 49th year, or we can call this as a Jubilee cycle, ends a major cycle for wheat, and extreme high or extreme low prices occur 49 to 50 years apart. Note low 1845, 1846. Then 50 years later, extreme low again. Note high 1867 and 50 years later. Now we have two different time factors, which is 1845. We have seen 1845 from the 84-year cycle. So again, the starting point was almost the same, which is 1845, 1846. Then 50 years later, extreme low again. Note high 1867, and 50 years later, 1917, highest prices for over 100 years. Note 1932 and 1933 extreme lows were 80 years from 1852. Now, this is again maybe intermediate between the 50 years, 49 years, and 84 years. But yes, we again see that, okay, this is a critical time factor. The 49-year cycle is 225 degree to 240 degree in the second circle of 360. Of course, wheel of 360, we maybe consider it separately because we cannot just mix across all these things together. The period of 49 years being 588 months. Note that 576 is the end of the fourth square of 12. Now, again, this fourth square of 12, 576 is important. In fact, the number 12 is very important because most of the cycles that we see, we have 12, 12 into 5, we get 60. 60 is a multiple of 12. 12 into 6, we get 72. 12 into 7, we get 84. So again, 84 is a multiple. 12 into 8 is 96. So this is also somewhere around nearer to our 90 years old. Not exactly on that part, but yes, we can almost see a factor because 6 is again half of 12. That's why these figures are important. This has been defined over here that the 49-year cycle is 225 degree to 240 degree in the second circle of 360 degree. The period of 49 years being 588 months. Note that 576 is the end of the fourth square of 12, which is the fatal square or death point, representing the grave, the winter season, the end of life or anything, and the beginning over again. So this is again something critical, important. Then we come to the next cycle, which is 45-year cycle. The digits 1 to 9, when added up, totals 45. Now, this may be a part of numerology, but this is how it is. 45 is the most important angle. Therefore, 45-year is time is a very important cycle. One half of 45 is 22 and a half or 270 months. One fourth of 45 is 11, 1 and 4, 1 by 4 years or 135 months, which is 3 times 45. You will note how important these points are on 360 circle chart. Maybe 360 circle chart, when we'll take that later on, we'll discuss about that, because then knowing why this 360 chart is important, we'll come to know that this years are been falling on that chart. 1/8 of 45 is 5, 5 by 8 or 67 and a half months. 1/6 of 45 is 33, 3 by 4 months. So that's why 45 is important, because 45, if we consider, this comes to 1 unit of price and 1 unit of time. That together makes an angle of 45. Next, we have 30-year cycle. Compare 1845, 1867 with 1895, 1897 and 1925, 1927. Compare 1914, 1920 with 1944, 1915. So 30-year cycle are basically three cycles together make 90-year cycles. So that's why this becomes again important. We have 20-year cycle. This is very important cycle because this is 1/3 of 60-year cycle. 20 years equals 240 months, which is 2/3 of the circle of 360. So these are all major cycles which have been talked about: 20-year cycles, 30-year cycles, 45-year cycle. We have 49-year cycle, 60-year cycle, 84-year cycle, and 90-year cycles. So this all are important. Now, what is the multiplying factor which is critical for us? Let's go to that part also. Now, if we just move one page ahead, let's say this was page number 161, and now we go to page number 160, we'll come to know about the secret part. It is duration of moves. All market movements obey the law of 12 and its multiple. So it's talk about all markets and they follow the law of 12, which is again important. See permanent master 12 chart. So when you go on that chart, probably we'll able to know about that. Major changes occur in the 11th to 12th, then 18th, then 22nd to 24th. Now again 11 to 12, this comes to 12. 12.5 is 18. 12 into 2 is 24. So that's why 22nd to 24th. Now see, this is again a range, not an exact point, because this is during this time frame that you'll be finding those changes happening. Changes doesn't happen over a day. In a day, you'll be able to find the high, but during that tenure, the changes do happen. 34th to 36th. Now again, 36 is the multiple of 12. 42, 42 is 36 plus 6. 48 is 12 into 4. So 48, 49. That's why this 48 to 49 years is again important. 50 or maybe 50 is again half of 100. 54th. So we have 48 plus 6, which comes to 54. And then we have 12 into 5, that is 60. Plus 6 gives us 66. And again, there is one more important cycle, which is 72. Maybe we'll talk about that separately. So 60 plus 12 gives us 72. 72 plus 12 gives us 84. And 72 plus 6 gives us 78. So 72-year cycle is important. 84 years is again important. 84 years, so again, WD Gann especially talked about that. Again, adding 6 to that, we get 90. We have 96, which is again important. 96 to 102, which is nearer to the 100 years cycle. Then after 96 comes 108, so which is again a multiple. Adding 6, we get 114, and 12 into 10 is 120. So adding 6, we get 126. 120 plus 12 gives us 132. And then after that, we have 12 into 12 is 144. We'll again talk about the 360-degree or maybe the permanent master 12 chart, 144 months chart, because these are all very critical and important for us. So this is the permanent master 12 chart of wheat that we are especially seeing over here. We are also marked this date. So this chart comes from Bonnie Lee Hill, where the dates have been mentioned and taken accordingly. So you can always go on website and try to find out this. So this is the permanent master 12 chart, which is specially been made for wheat, and we start from a specific year. So this is how the permanent master chart of 12 is basically been made. We have numbers starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. Then we have 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108, 120, 132, 144. Now, this then probably we are able to divide this. Let's say, for example, this level is 0 and this comes to level 1. So if this is an entire cycle, we can divide this into different parts. We have half of that. And if we have 0 and half, that is 0.5, we can again have half of that, that is 1/4 or 0.25. Then between this number, which is 1 and half, we again have 3/4, which is again 50% of these 2 points. So if we see technically, this is 25%, this is 50%, this is 75%, and this comes to level 1. So this is how the factoring happens together. And then we have these diagonals which have been drawn. This diagonals comes as our important time factors, which are coming over here on this line as well as this line. Of course, we'll talk about that later on, but if we see prima facie, we have these important factors. Let's say we are talking about 67. So 67 comes over here. We have 78, which again comes over here. We have 89, then 100, then 122. And if we see on probably this diagonal, we have 144. Again, if we especially see on this diagonals, we have very important time factors, which is 144. Then we have this center point. Now, the center points are very important: 66, 67, 79, 78, because this is almost at the center, and the changes, major changes do happen around this time period, which is been talked about by WD Gann. And if you see somewhere around 66, 67 years, or maybe 78, 79 years, because this is at the center. So that's why these parts are important. If I especially see over here, this is 1920. So 1920, of course, we had something critical important to be noted. Same way, if we talk about 1929, 1930, this is almost on the diagonal. So that's why 1929, 1930 was again very much important. And if we see the changes occurred, those came in 1932, 1933. So when we move from this diagonal to the next diagonal, this period is critical. This period is critical, something very much important. And that's why the changes do happen from around the diagonals according. You can, of course, test it across with various dates and try to find out, because this becomes a very critical and important part, because now onwards, see, because here we were just looking across for the cycles. We were just looking across at the cycles which have been coming off maybe 90 years, 84 years, 60 years, 49 years, 45 years, 30 years. But this then becomes an important tool for us, knowing how exactly the dates can be found out, where we can start with that, and how we will be able to interpret those. So this 12 years duration takes us to the permanent master 12 chart. So this is how permanent master 12 chart is there. There will be only numbers from 1 to 12 up to 144. The dates have been mentioned over here by Bonnie Lee Hill, and this has been taken from her website. Of course, if you go on website, you'll be able to find various other details also. But this is how end of the day it comes out to. Very important for us to note down. Maybe probably in the next chapters we'll be able to find more of in details about this. Okay. Till that time, thank you so much. Bye. Take care.